Hello Sharks, I am Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com, here today with a hand from the Partypoker Live Premier League, featuring two world-class players. We have Phil Hellmuth, you all know him. I interviewed him on my YouTube channel recently. Make sure you check that out at youtube.com/pokercoaching. He is the crusher in the World Series of Poker, 15 World Series of Poker bracelets. He's going to be playing against Dan Jungleman Cates. If you don't know him, he is considered one of the best heads-up no-limit hold'em players in the world. He's also the founder of the Daniel Cates Foundation that helps people who are less fortunate in Africa primarily, and he, well, gets after it. Let's take a look at him playing a fun one against the great Phil Hellmuth Jr.
And this was an amazing heat as well because of all the point system came into play. Everyone was so close.
Yeah, this was it was the last one, I think, the last heat, wasn't it? And Jungleman shouldn't really be playing a pot in the hand too, because he's like blocked to make the final because he has all the chips and he decides to like play crazy. He doesn't really know why, he's just doing it.
So what the commentators here are referring to is the fact that this is sort of a league, right? And Jungleman, Dan Cates here, already has enough points to the point that he doesn't really need to try to accumulate points anymore. He just wants to not go broke. So that is certainly worth noting here. People should presume he's going to play on the tighter side. That said, he will take them to the jungle and battle all day, every day for fun, for sport. That's how the Jungleman operates. So in this scenario, Phil Hellmuth raises it up from, it looks like, the hijack seat. Jungleman calls with the 8-7 of hearts. If you are unfamiliar with pre-flop play, make sure you download my 6 max pre-flop charts for 6-handed play. You can get those completely for free at pokercoaching.com/6maxcharts. Phil Hellmuth opens it with the king-jack offsuit. Jungleman calls the 8-7 suited. Sure, seems reasonable.
It was kind of a theme of the whole Premier League when Jungleman's in, is that he just does his own thing and doesn't pay attention to the points, and it aggravates people.
So funny enough, I thought he called. Calling's fine. Jungleman re-raises though. They are playing very deep stacked here, 132 big blinds. As you are deeper and deeper, I think it becomes more and more reasonable to 3-bet some of these suited connected type hands like this, because whenever you do happen to make a strong hand, you're very, very, very likely to get paid off for a lot of money. So Jungleman does go for the small 3-bet. It goes 8,000, 20,000. Phil Hellmuth calls with the king-jack, and look, normally, king-jack is not the best hand in the world to call a 3-bet with, but against the Jungleman, getting good odds, I think calling is reasonable. You may actually want to 4-bet this every once in a while. I don't hate it. These big blocker hands like king-jack offsuit, ace-jack offsuit, ace-10 offsuit play reasonably well as a bluff, because whenever you have those two high cards in your hand, it makes it less likely your opponent has those high cards in their hand, which means they're less likely to have like pocket kings and ace-king, right?
He just wants to play correct poker. He doesn't want to do anything to do with points. So that's as good as you're going to get with the flop.
Phil Hellmuth flops the nuts. He has king-jack on jack 4-4. Seems like a great spot to check. Give Jungleman the chance to bluff.
King-jack.
Check. 51.
Jungleman bets 21,000 into the, what was it? It was roughly 45,000 pot. Phil Hellmuth immediately check raises it up to 51, so a little bit more than a minimum raise, 2.5x the bet. What a weird spot for the Jungleman. I want you to take a second to think about what you would do playing very deep stacked against the great Phil Hellmuth. Obviously, we don't know he has the king-jack. This is a situation where it's pretty tough, right? I mean, I realize Jungleman has the 8 high, but he's getting really good odds. He has to put in 30 into a pot that's going to be quite big. And, you know, you have all the backdoor draws. You have position. Is that enough to stick around against the World Series of Poker bracelet champion? I want you to think about this and pause the video. Write what you would do in the comment section below. Would you fold, even getting good odds and having position? Would you call? Or would you bump it up? Would you re-raise and make it something like 150,000 and try to really apply pressure to Phil Hellmuth? We are playing very deep stacked again. 530,000 deep, so lots and lots of play remains. Pause the video and write what you would do in the comment section below. All right, this is a tricky spot, and I think Jungleman's reasonable options here are to fold because he thinks Phil Hellmuth is just doing this with the best hands, or perhaps to call. If you think Hellmuth is ever getting out of line, or if you think you can really bully Hellmuth on the turn and the river, which maybe is the case, maybe not, I don't know. If you think you can really push him around on the turn and the river and maybe even get him off of a jack, especially if the board runs off a little bit nasty, then I think that it's very reasonable to call, purely because we're getting really good odds and because we are in position. When you're deep stacked, good pot odds and position allows you to stick around with all sorts of backdoor draws. If Jungleman had a slightly better draw, like Queen 10 of Hearts or King 10 of Hearts for backdoor flush draw with an overcard, then I would love calling. Like, I think folding would be out of the question then. But I think in this scenario with just 2 undercards and like the bad end of the backdoor straight draw, I think folding is probably ideal.
I think you mentioned at some point that everybody knew the Jungleman was at it when the turn comes. How'd you know?
It was just pretty obvious. I don't know. It was just the way he calls, and he gives a lot away live. But
Jungleman does opt to call. Commentators saying Jungleman's a tell box. Maybe that's true, maybe not. I tend to presume the absolute best poker players in the world are not tell boxes, although, you know, maybe Jungleman is. Who knows? I don't know. Haven't played with him very much, so I have almost no idea. But you got to be careful assuming you know too much about people who are very successful at poker.
It just felt like he was bluffing. There's not many hands he would raise the turn with, you see. All his value hands he'd just call again, I think, and then probably get a raise in on the river, so.
Turns the 9 of Hearts. Commentators talking about something not relating to this hand. Thanks, commentators. Come on, maybe I'll mute you next time. So here, the turn's the 9 of Hearts, and Phil Hellmuth immediately bets 40, a small bet. I do not like this bet, because in this scenario, if Jungleman has a jack that's worse than King Jack, he's obviously never going to fold for any amount. If he has an underpair, like pocket 6s, he'll probably call a slightly bigger bet, right? If he has a 4, you know, you're just on the hook no matter how it goes. And if he has some nonsense, I mean, I guess 40 keeps him in with some nonsense. To be fair, given Jungleman has the 8-7 of Hearts, maybe Phil Hellmuth's bet's actually pretty good, because realize Jungleman is going to have 8-7 of clubs and King 10 of clubs, right? So hands that are drawing pretty thin here. That said, I think you probably just want to go a little bit bigger, because again, you give a world-class player like Jungleman position and pot odds, and they're going to stick around with all sorts of stuff appropriately. So this is a scenario where I think you probably want to go just a little bit bigger. But, you know, Jungleman has 2 options here now. He can either call or raise. If we were getting kind of close to getting all in, I think calling is definitely the right play. As you get deeper and deeper, though, it becomes more and more viable to raise. The thing is, though, is you really, 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 really do not want to raise with a draw that you'd have to fold if you get shoved on, assuming you think you're actually going to get shoved on some portion of the time. So in this scenario, it's pretty likely Phil Hellmuth has a jack, right? If he has a jack, will he rip it all in if Jungleman puts in the raise in this scenario? And I don't know. From everything I know about Phil Hellmuth, everything I've seen him when he's playing heads up against down Negreanu, he really doesn't seem to try to just like blast it in with anything, really, unless he just is really, really confident he has the best hand, and he realizes he could be beating the scenario by like ace-4, 5-4, etc. So I think raising in this spot is pretty reasonable. And if Hellmuth ever is bluffing, you'll get him to fold out like ace-high, which is fine, right? And if he does call, sometimes you're going to spike a heart or a 10 and just win all the money. So cool scenario. Actually, one of the recent pokercoaching.com homework questions I had, it was like, how do you play your draws on the turn whenever you could get shoved all in? And this really is an intricate spot, because if Hellmuth is just going to rip it in because he's out of position and, you know, the river could be quite bad for him, then Jungleman does not want to raise with good draws like this. But if Hellmuth is going to call or fold, then raising is amazing. Make sure you check out pokercoaching.com. We're actually having a big sale right now for Father's Day. Shout out to all the fathers out there. If you're a father, let me know in the comment section below. I'm a father too. I have 2 kids, James and Thomas. They're sweet boys. Sometimes. So anyway, check out pokercoaching.com/fathers for a big discount for a limited time on my training site, pokercoaching.com. If you like this channel, you'll like pokercoaching.com. You'll probably love pokercoaching.com. And if you don't like it, let me know within 30 days and I'll give you all your money back. If I don't help you get substantially better at poker, I do not want or deserve your money. All right, so what's Jungleman do here? I think calling and raising are both fine.
Like he was trying to blow Phil off a hand.
And after Phil's check raised the flop, you have to give him credit for something.
He goes massive as well. He goes 40 to like 160 or something.
I will venture to say, when Phil Hellmuth check raises like he did, it was actually a small bet. I think commentators were busy talking about the previous hand. It went 20 and then 51. When Phil Hellmuth does that, I don't think he has to have all nuts. I think he could easily have like pocket 8s in this scenario. Or he could have ace high or something and just be like splashing around trying to push Jungleman around because he gets fed up. If you watched the recent high stakes duel between Negreanu and Hellmuth, you saw whenever Hellmuth got a little bit steamed up, he would get after it. and that's a lot of fun. Make sure you check out my interview with Phil Hellmuth, by the way, on my YouTube channel. It's a lot of fun. We also interviewed Daniel Negreanu. I do my best to provide good content for you. If you like my content, do me a quick favor. Click the like and subscribe button below. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers. When we get there, we will have a very, very nice giveaway for all of you, including money, coaching, and all sorts of stuff. So make sure you're a subscriber.
Something.
Oh,
Jungleman does.
I hate poker sometimes.
Raise it up.
Look at you sitting there shaking your head. You know it.
40 to 110. Jungleman expects to never get shoved on, which I think is reasonable here.
Down queens and me ace jack.
Kind of strange because at the time I thought Phil Hellmuth check raised with the intention to, pick off a bluff, but then when he got raised, I think it's almost like a speech thing to get him to bluff again. It must be because he called the river.
So here the commentator's saying that whenever Phil Hellmuth does all this talking, it's almost like he's trying to induce Jungleman to bluff again on the river, and I think that's certainly what could be happening here. Like right here, Phil Hellmuth knows he's going to check call on basically every river, I think, especially against Jungleman, who's loose and aggressive and splashy. And sometimes you can get unlucky. I actually had a very similar spot like this on Poker After Dark recently. You can check that out at Poker Go, where I flopped top pair against a loose aggressive player who decided to 3-bet me with the 10-3 suited, and he backdoored a flush, and I lost, right? I flopped top pair, he backdoors a flush, and I lose. And if he doesn't backdoor flush, I win a bunch of money. But he does backdoor the flush, so I lose. And that's fine. You would sign for that all day, every day. And I think that's the scenario that Hellmuth's in, where I do think Jungleman is going to bluff this river, or bet this river like close to every time with his hand. And, sometimes he gets there, sometimes he doesn't. But Hellmuth's going to pay either way. I have a question for everyone. Is it your guilty pleasure to see Phil Hellmuth get tilted? I think it's almost everyone's guilty pleasure. You think the Jungleman's going to do it?
And then it hits.
That's just brutal. Yes. It's like the worst one.
The best one.
Right, because you can give him a little bit of credit for having the heart draw there.
Like ace queen of hearts maybe or something like that. But
that big jungle.
7-8. Don't see that one ever.
At the end of this hand, Daniel just puts his hand over his face so he doesn't laugh out loud.
So many times in this Premier League, Jungleman was about to ruin his tournament and just seemed to wiggle out on the turns of the river. So
Jungle rivered the 10 for the straight. Bets 245K. I mean, look, there's nothing Hellmuth could do here besides make a absolute wizardly read. Hellmuth does make some super white magic reads every once in a while, as he calls them. And, this would be an amazing fold if he could find a fold here. I would never fold. Sometimes a Jungleman gets you.
Everybody was just kind of jealous and a bit annoyed that he was running so good because felt like he should have lost his chips a few times.
Got anything, Jungleman?
I think this is one of those times in the Premier League where everyone was so involved in watching the hands because it all meant so much.
Yeah.
Three.
Look at that smile.
Oh my God. Welcome to the jungle.
Just look at Phil.
Got fun and games.
I like your call.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a good call.
he's got a 4, and I think it's a good
Brilliant.
You knew he was bluffing on the turn. Everybody knew he was bluffing on the
Yeah.
turn.
I knew he was going to try to give me all the money, too. It's just so sick.
I like your call.
I really do.
You know Phil's about to go crazy here.
Wow.
Tried to bluff off all his money. He had the Premier League locked up, and he decided to bluff it all off. The guy had
Welcome to the jungle, am I right? That's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you did, do me a quick favor, click like and subscribe below. We have lots and lots of content coming out for you here at youtube.com/pokercoaching, so make sure you check it out. Good luck in your games. Have a great week. Whenever you're against the backdoor flush, I hope they don't get there, especially with the straight, because then you really have to pay. Bye-bye. Howdy, partners. Station Master Little here with a public service announcement.
It's come to my attention that a few of you have become extreme calling stations. Now, I love calling. I'm the station master after all. But you can't call with queen high every time. Sometimes you have to fold.
Click subscribe to make sure you don't become a super station.